What's up, Kansas City? My name is Bill Mullins, and I am a community organizer who believes that until Kansas City as a region comes together, we're only doing about 85% of what we need to do to be the city of the 21st century, the metropolis of the 21st century. We all know that there's a lot of history of division and fragmentation and parochialism in this town, and some of us realize that we need to work to overcome those histories. The good news is that 100 years ago, when George Kessler and William Rockhill Nelson, who donated the museum, and August Meyer, who was a leading industrialist of the time, decided it was time for Kansas City to go from being a riverfront town to a city, that they made the decision to lay out what was called the Parks and Boulevard system, ultimately the Kessler Plan. George Kessler was an urban planner. At the time there was a national movement called City Beautiful, and Kansas City got on the ball and laid out one of the most remarkable sets of parks and boulevards and fountains and things that today we're all very proud of and happy to tell people from the East Coast and the West Coast who don't think that anything happens in flyover country. However, for the last 25 or 30 years, we've been in a situation where technology is becoming more and more prominent in our lives, but the way that we think about the development of our community is still tied to the use of land. And so we work on revitalizing downtown, and we work on talking about whether to change the airport. And in the meantime, we also worry about whether our kids in our school systems are able to compete and actually hold the many jobs that our employers say are open, but they can't find qualified employees for. I've been involved since 2009 with the Kansas City Public Schools, with an after-school program called Esteem Village, with robotics, with hackathons, with meetings at UMKC and the Kauffman Foundation, all of which have allowed me to figure out who is interested in what. And there's kind of a common theme that comes up, and that is I go to meetings that have 30 or 40 or 100 people in them, and I only know 3 or 4 or 5 of them. So I've come to the conclusion that there's a real groundswell of interest. We saw that after the Royals won the World Series, but we haven't figured out how to bring that interest into a working configuration. And we now live in a net-centric world, not a land-use-centric world. And there are things we have to do besides Google Fiber and besides digital inclusion to actually build some structures where when we work together we have the ability to work in net space, in digital space, in traditional transportation space, in lifelong education space. What I've been doing and talking to friends and people for the last 5 years is to promote the idea that much like August Meyer and William Rockhill Nelson and George Kessler were able to envision a future for Kansas City that lasted for a century and influenced us throughout the entire region, that we can do a corresponding development of thinking about a net-centric metropolis of Kansas City, a metropolis of cities, not a core and a surround. We may have gotten to the way we are that way, but in the future we're going to be a web, and that web is going to have a spherical configuration, even if it's only in our mind and it's only in cyberspace. But that's the way it works. And so now we're at the point where we need to figure out how to move from our traditional sort of flat world views of TV screens and monitors and even smartphones, and really recognize that we are also connected in instantaneous multiple connection ways, in that the future will involve becoming less fragmented, less parochial, less apathetic, and more together, even in our diversity. So if you want to be part of that, I'm Bill Mullins. The Kessler Institute is our unofficial organization for recognizing the opportunity, and I hope to run into you somewhere. Feel free to come up and talk to me. Thank you.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Cat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.